This is K2, the world's second highest mountain. The first attempt was 100 years ago in 1909 by the Duke of Abruzzi, an Italian gentleman. He reached halfway up on the right-hand side, and being a gentleman, he also wore a tweed jacket and a tie, and he was eating cans of sardines while he climbed the mountain. This is an avalanche. Do you know what an avalanche is?
Snow falling from a...
Good job. Snow falling down the mountain. High five. Good job. And just to show you the scale of this, if you look way down the right foreground, you can see 4 little blue tents. And if you have a magnifying glass, you can see 4 Spanish men in their underwear running out of the tents. Now, fortunately, nobody was hurt in this avalanche. So we went up the West Ridge. We spent 78 days on the mountain. And finally, it was time to go home. I didn't quite make it to the top, and I was really disappointed. Why do you think I was sad because I didn't make it to the top? Did you answer yet?
You didn't get to put your sister's necklace on top of K2?
Very good. I didn't get to put my sister's necklace on top, and I made a promise to my sister. Any of you read 3 Cups of Tea out there? Can anybody remember what the first chapter was called, the first chapter? Failure. Very good. Give her a big round. Sometimes there's 5,000 people. Nobody remembers that word. You know, when I submitted the manuscript to New York, they said, Greg, you cannot start a book with the word failure. But you know what? We all make mistakes and we all fail in our lives. Some of us burn cookies in the oven. Some of us fail in our relationships. Some of us, fail in our promotions. I was on Wall Street this spring. I mentioned that some of us failed our investments, and nobody laughed there. At least we can laugh in San Diego. So next time you fail, think of this very beautiful Persian proverb that says, can you read this?
When it's dark, you can see the stars.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And it's actually, you know, the kids, they sleep on the roof a lot in the summer and the fall, and they see the stars going overhead. So this is a very common proverb with the kids. And can you think of what this means? Do you want to come up here?
Stars are kind of your goals, and when it's dark and you think you can't do anything, there's always your goals to reach to.
Well, that's beautiful. Very good. Did you hear him? Good job. I'm really glad you came today. So finally went to walk 58 miles, carry 90 pounds. I was stumbling, and I got into a little village called Corfe. When I got there, the village chief, Haji Ali, he's the gentleman on the left-hand side with the silver beard, he first greeted me. He said, Assalamu alaikum, which means peace be with you. And then he shook his head, and he said, Cheezale. Now, being from the Midwest, the best translation I can think of the word Cheezale is what the heck. You know, I was weather-beaten, my pants were ripped, and I hadn't taken a bath in 84 days. He said, before you come to my house, you do need to wash up a little bit. Anyways, I went to his house for tea. I've now spent 17 years working in rural Afghanistan and Pakistan, and I've learned a few things. 1 out of 3 children born dies before the age of 1. The literacy rate, do you know what literacy means? Literacy? It means you can read and write. And illiterate means you can't read and write. So remember that literacy means you can read and write. All of you can read and write, right? Okay, you're all literate. You think? Okay. Not sure? Also, many men leave the villages, and it's women who are left behind. And they say the workload has doubled over the last 2-3 decades. So I spent some time recovering there. Very incredible hospitality. One day I walked behind the village, and I saw 84 children sitting in the dirt during their school lessons. There were 5 girls, 79 boys, and most of the kids were writing with a stick in the sand because they didn't have a pencil or paper. And I looked around. There was no teacher there. So can you imagine? The reason is they can't afford his daily $1 salary, so half the week he went to another school to teach. Now, can you imagine coming to school half the week and no teacher would be there? Would you be coming to school without a teacher? Yes? okay? Yes? You probably wouldn't go to school in the first place, okay? Most of them would go to school. That's incredible. Most kids, they don't say they're not going to go to school. Pardon me? What did you say? That includes you, okay. So when a girl named Chocho came up to me and asked for help to build a school, I made a promise that day. I promised to build a school. And although, today we are trying to grapple with something called poverty. We haven't done a poverty bailout yet. But the only way I think we can solve poverty is that we have to touch poverty, and we have to taste poverty, and we have to smell poverty, and we have to hear poverty, and we have to be with poverty. We can never solve poverty from a think tank in Washington, D.C. And to me, what is so inspiring as I go around the country to schools and places of worship and many other places, there's a phenomenon going on in this country, and it's called community service. There was a U.S. News and World Report. Do you know what community service means, or civic engagement? Yeah.
Doing something for the community, or like helping out with, events that are happening. Just basically helping others.
Oh, very good. Helping others and helping your community. There was a U.S. News and World Report that came out 3 years ago, and it said that in 1970, 30% of college graduates said, I want to go out and make my community or nation or the world a better place. By 1990, 20 years later, it dropped to 18%. That was the day everybody wanted to go out and make a buck. It was the me generation. Today, 50%, half of college graduates say, I want to go out and make my community or the world a better place. If you go down to high schools and junior highs and elementary, it's even much higher than that. And the other thing that's happening is there's kind of a revolution going on in higher education. If you visit campuses and look at the curriculum, you'll see that political science has turned into international relations. Nursing and medicine has turned into holistic health rather than symptomatic treatment of diseases. Engineering and architecture has turned into sustainable engineering architecture. Philosophy and religion and even engineering are integrating. And if you ask a college president or administrator why this is happening, they will tell you that the reason is it's being driven by the students themselves and this desire. The only problem is that some kids and students, they don't know exactly what to do, and they don't have role models or peers. So I'll just share with you in a couple minutes about a couple peers who are doing these amazing things. So I came back to the States. I had no clue how to fundraise, and I've gotten a lot of flack for it. But what I did is I went to the local librarian. So is there any librarians in here? All right, give them all a big round. There's lots of them. And I'd really like to thank the librarians. Librarians and teachers are my heroes, and thank you also for the one book program you've worked so hard on. So the librarian and I, we looked up the name of 580 celebrities and movie stars, and I hand-typed 580 letters to raise money for the school. Dear Michael Jordan. Dear Sylvester Stallone. Anyways, guess what happened? Nothing happened. And then at Christmas time, I got one check back for Tom Brokaw for $100. Now, Tom has been a big help with 3 Cups of Tea. He recently moved to Montana and had us over to his ranch for dinner a couple times. But he's also kind of avoiding me lately. So I asked Tom, why are you avoiding me? And Tom said, well, I'm kind of embarrassed because everywhere I go in airports and other places, people pull me aside and ask about this 3 Cups of Tea thing. And I'm really embarrassed because I only wrote you a $100 check and you wrote about it and stuck it in the book. Now, I didn't quite have the guts to say, Tom, you can write another check and we'll stick it in the next book. And to add some insult to that, my daughter Mira, who's 13, we were doing homework the other night, but she was a little distracted, and she looked up at me and said, Daddy, I figured out that in 1993, you spent $128 on postage, and you only raised $100.